Welcome to Midlife Reclaimed, the podcast for women ready to navigate midlife with more clarity, compassion, and energy. I'm Shannon A. Swales, psychologist, writer, doggy mama, and midlife woman walking this path alongside you. Twice a month, we explore real stories, expert insights, and practical tools to help you move through chronic stress, overwhelm, and burnout so you can reclaim your voice, your boundaries, and your joy. Please remember what you hear here is general information, not a substitute for personal therapy. This isn't about midlife crisis, it's about midlife reclamation. So let's begin. As we come to the final episode of Season 8 of Midlife Reclaimed, I wanted to share a conversation that feels deeply relevant to the times we are living in. My guest today is Minky Walt, a registered music therapist, a trauma therapist, clinical supervisor, and educator. While much of Minky's work focuses on supporting therapists, healthcare workers, educators, and other helping professionals, the themes we explore in this conversation extend far beyond any one profession. Together, we explore what happens when the demands placed upon us begin to exceed the resources available to us. Whether that occurs within healthcare, education, our workplaces, our families, or our own homes. Many of us know what it feels like to carry more than is possible or that is sustainable. So we discuss burnout and moral distress and the importance of collective care, self-leadership, creative reflection, music, somatic practices, and the importance of community in helping us navigate these often broken, under-resourced systems, both professionally and personally. Along the way, Minky also shares some practical takeaway exercises and reflections that you can use to explore yourself out there. And so, whether you're a helping professional, a caregiver, or simply someone trying to navigate the realities of modern life or even midlife, I think you'll find wisdom, compassion, and hope in this conversation. So, thank you for joining me for another season of Midlife Reclaimed. It's been fun, it's been enlightening, very interesting, and inspiring. But let's dive into this one. Hi, Minky. Welcome to Midlife Reclaimed. It's lovely to finally sit down and have this vital conversation with you today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Nice to be
Hey,
here.
lovely. So, Minky, I mean, we were having a bit of a reminiscing prior to hitting record about how we first met, and yeah, like with Instagram, finding out that we had a commonality in terms of the work that we're doing in the world at the time, and that's probably going back 4 years now, I think.
Yeah, I think at
Yeah.
least, yes.
Yeah, because we were 2026, so it'd
Yeah.
have to be around. Because I know it was around the time that I was in my recovery from burnout,
Hmm.
but a fair ways into it. Like I was back working, but not quite back working to doing therapy at the time, if I remember rightly. I think I was teaching, but looking at going back and looking and seeing your work online, I just felt really connected to reach out to you, not just because of the commonality of the area, but also in seeking support from you as well with your the offerings that you have in the world. But rather than me jumping in there, I was wondering if you could share with the listeners, yeah, what you do, yeah, what you put out in the world. Yeah.
Sure. So I'm Minky van der Walt. I'm a registered music therapist and PACFA accredited clinical supervisor. And I am based down here in Nipaluna, Hobart, on the land of the Palawa people. And I've been working for a long time across education, in health and in community services settings to offer therapy and supervision. And I think through my work as a family and child trauma therapist, I really
Mm,
started to notice not only the impact on myself, but the really kind of serious
mm,
impact on a lot of the adults who were supporting children in care or going through um,
mm,
family violence. So Yeah, that's really what's
Mm,
brought me to this work in terms of wanting to find ways to support other therapists and clinicians and people in
mm.
helping roles.
Yeah, and that's what drew me to, or part of what drew me to, because being a professional, clinical psych at the time had burnt out pretty spectacularly, and recognized in my healing that also that vicarious trauma, that secondary traumatic stress that came from the exposure of and that emotional fatigue, of not emotional fatigue, empathy fatigue as well, on holding a lot and just not realizing the cumulative effect, or not knowing, and seeing that there was a clinician out there working in that space, seeing that toll, and yeah, working out there, it was I was just like, yay, someone who gets it, someone who's passionate, and someone who's offering spaces, because the supervision space that I came to you with, after connecting with you on your business Instagram, and virtually walking into your
Zooming in.
supervisions, zooming in to your supervision spaces, which was such a huge. I went through your supervision groups twice. Yeah, I loved it so much. And I'll go back. I certainly will. I'm
Hmm.
not certainly putting that out of the picture. Um, yeah, just so vital. But before we get into, the work that you do, particularly the approaches you mentioned there, music therapist, and I want to find out, and the audience to find out about that work you do. But I want to go to, because you said there, you started to see, the toll that this work takes, and it drew you to working with therapists and clinicians. And I wonder, yeah, what do you see? What have you come to, yeah, learn about that toll? Yeah, what you're
Mm.
noticing out there. And I know that's a big topic, but whatever comes to mind,
It
whatever you'd
is.
like to share. Yeah, it is huge. Like, well, have
I
we got
mean,
3 hours, a whole day?
yeah, I think, I mean, everyone knows that all of our systems are overloaded, whether you're in health, community services,
Mm,
education, private practice. There's just such a huge need for
mm,
support and such a lack of funding for services. And
mm.
so, I mean, it's multi-layered. So we have
Yeah.
people needing support. We have not enough workers to deliver
Hmm.
the support. And then we have people who are in those roles feeling overloaded caseloads, feeling and witnessing and experiencing the need of people, and really coming across
Mm.
a values clash that is
Yeah.
moral distress in um, trying to work their way through all of that.
Mm.
And I think it's really difficult. And I think also a lot of the time, people who are drawn to these sorts of roles are people
Mm.
who are passionate and they care and they really want to make a difference. So
Mm.
it's quite a tricky blend to come to,
Yeah.
because you're wanting to help, but then often people are finding they can't help in the ways that they want, and they're just witnessing and experiencing the distress of that
Mm.
lack of support for people, but also their own values clash. And then the immense
Mm.
toll that that takes in terms of the physical toll, the mental load, and what
Mm.
it really does to our sense of meaning in our work and our
Mm.
lives. So
Mm.
we could
Yeah.
go on, but that's kind of like a big
Oh,
meta snapshot, I would say.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so beautifully put. I could really hear those multi-layers, and could find myself in that too, because it
Yeah.
was it was COVID time, private practice, been in private practice for years, and then COVID hit, and I'd been working in that space for a year of COVID being around,
Mm.
and already working in a system, as you said, the resources not being there systemically to meet the demand of the people needing mental health support, that existed prior to COVID. And I came to the profession, well, out of interest. I love human behavior, but I also
Mhm.
love, as a person who didn't have the knowledge or skills, which a lot of us don't, in how to take care of my emotional and mental health. I had experienced, a few things prior to coming to psychology, but knowing, and I wanted to pass it on, wanted to share that, wanted to help. And like you said, that moral distress that you can end up feeling because you can see the systemic letdowns, I was going to say, like the discrepancies, the lack of, which then keeps your hands tied on how much you can do. And then COVID comes along. I'm like, oh, um,
Yeah.
I could, and I've got we've all got a future brain, but mine lives way ahead. And I was like, nah, this is not gonna, in terms of the mental health system,
Hmm.
because, people are going to need it more and fair. And we're already over, I was booked up, waitlist huge, pretty much
Yeah.
every private practice psych. I
Yeah.
think that's across professions. Anyway, I could just feel that from a personal level, but also the therapists, clinicians, and people from all walks of life too. I mean, I've the parents during COVID time and trying to do the at-home schooling whilst a lot of their jobs requiring being in the healthcare
Hmm.
system or community
Hmm.
systems. And yeah, so
Hmm.
yeah, it's a lot. And so yeah, not easy answers. And I love what
No.
you said there about the value systems as well, because it becomes a values clash. And I see that personally, but also professionally too,
Mm.
in people, even post-COVID now, and just what they notice in their industry, their systems. It's really tough out there. Um, you talked about you noticed that the adults looking after our vulnerable public people in need, you could see that it was taking a toll. And yeah, I was wondering if you could speak to the work that you do, like how you try and meet the care needs of our caregivers, of our, I often call them that, but those who do the
Hmm.
caring. What sort of work you do? Because I know I've mentioned I've tapped into your supervision. I just want to hear a little bit more about those offerings and
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I offer therapeutic support, so one-on-one
Mm,
therapy for people as well as individual
mm,
supervision. But I think
mm.
what you're talking about is the supervision groups that I run.
Yeah.
So I run supervision groups that run for 6 months or longer. I have a
Mm,
couple of groups that have been in the same cohort for a few years now. And
mm,
so that's a space where people can come to look at their clinical work and to connect and to offer support, as well
mm,
as, um, you know, some analysis of the situation and how they can deepen
mm,
their clinical presence really with the work that they're
mm,
doing, not
mm,
only for the work that they do, but for themselves. So I think that's
mm,
something that I hold quite close to the work that
mm,
I do, is that just acknowledging the personal and the professional. So it used to be very
mm.
much, you put your professional hat on, you go to work, and then you leave that at work, and then you come home and you're, your own
Mm,
private person. But actually, the two, we're one person going to work
mm,
and same person coming home, and they both sort of
mm.
impact each other. So it's an
Ooh,
acknowledgement of that,
yeah, yeah.
and then having the space to work through these things in community. Because I think what I'm seeing and hearing so much
Mm,
is that therapists and clinicians are feeling really isolated
mm,
and alone. A lot of the work that we do can be just in a room, one-on-one with
mm,
people. And I
mm,
think even for people who are working in bigger systems, in hospitals or agency,
mm,
often they might be part of teams, but sometimes they can not have that much
mm.
time and space due to the workload demands to
Yeah,
then touch base in between. So it's really about
yeah,
providing a space to come together and
yeah.
support each other and just be people in community working through things together.
Wow, that isolation versus or and solution community. And
Hmm.
as you shared a couple examples there of what you see, yeah, clinicians, private practice, isolation. Like I worked in a group practice, but there,
Mm.
what you said there, you can have a team around you that you can access, but it's so busy often. There's not a lot
Mhm.
of time for that interaction to feel that sense of community that it doesn't feel like a community. And it made me think that that can even happen for like I think mums out there as well. Like, we might have
Mm.
girlfriends or whoever, people we can get, but we're often so busy doing life, working, raising our family, whatever it might be, that we don't have the space to connect with the community that might exist that could,
Mhm.
yeah, help. Like there's something interesting about I'm just sitting with this work and in systems that are the way they are currently, and that lack of resources and that high demand, and something that we don't have control over, making massive changes there to support this. But one thing that you're providing that can make a massive assistance and accommodation in that is providing community spaces where they can,
Mm.
that their personal and professional self that's all entwined can be, yeah, supported. And
Mm.
that's when I was in your supervision space, what I really felt as well, because I joined your group, and it was being around other professionals who, different roles, but had that very similar stuff that they were holding, and we could bring and show up our personal and professional, but have that collective support. It was so
Mm.
helpful, especially for me as I moved back into the industry. That, yeah, still very yeah, um, needs a lot of
Mm.
TLC or improvement. But yeah, with the spaces you do create, those communities you do create and have, I was wondering, for listeners to get insight. Well, okay, what happens in these? What do what approaches or things that you do to help the helper, help the caregiver, help the person, yeah, be cared for, I suppose, or be supported in how they can support themselves out there in
Mm.
this difficult world, yeah, at times.
Y-
Mm.
Yeah, I think so. I can talk about group supervision, and then I can tell you a little bit about another program that I run
Yeah,
as well.
please do.
So, with group supervision, we have a closed group of six practitioners. So
Mm,
that means the same group goes together, and we can sort of get to know each other and build trust and
mm,
connection over time. And it's really about we come in, we have a bit of a check-in, and then people let us know whatever they might be important for the group to know and flag any needs they have for
mm,
supervision that session. And from there, we prioritize what feels important as a
mm,
group. So we might have a theme that runs through depending on what's going on in the world and in people's lives.
mm,
Or we might just have a focus on two or three um, pieces of work. And the way that looks can be different, but we
mm,
often have a creative reflection of some sort using
mm,
music and drawing or writing or
mm,
movement, depending. And that's all
mm,
scaffolded. Nobody needs any particular skills in those areas. It just offers a different way to connect inwards. We know that, our thinking brain, our prefrontal cortex is
mm,
only quite a small part of the brain, and the
mm,
rest of our body and our system really is the place where we hold all of our emotion, all of our survival responses, and our movement and posture
mm,
and all of those sorts of things.
mm,
So using these other approaches can really help to connect into so much wisdom that is sort of under the
mm,
surface, if you like. So
mm, mm,
those are some of the ways. We also look at things from multiple perspectives. So looking at what's happening in the immediate relationships, what's happening in the wider context, what might
mm,
be happening individually for the person who's accessing the
mm,
service, as well as what's happening for the practitioner supporting them, and just sort of having a multi-dimensional view of the
mm,
work.
mm,
So, and I think for me, it's really all about how we can bring ourselves into a sense of clinical
mm,
presence. So the more that
mm,
we can be present with the situation, and the more
mm,
that we
mm,
can let our any sort of preconceived ideas or anything that might be
Mm,
running automatically, let it drop and just be with what is right here.
mm,
So it's a lot
mm,
working with emergent process
mm,
in
mm,
those
mm,
supervision groups.
mm, mm,
And then I also have a program called Flourish that also runs for 6 months. And that's more very much geared towards addressing what I see as a professional skills gap
mm,
and a professional competency around
mm,
tending to the impacts of clinical practice. So
mm,
it's looking at what's happening for ourselves, what's happening in the environment. I think, obviously, anyone who's been trained and who's qualified practitioner can list all of the things that might be helpful to do. We all know it, but I think
mm,
when we're in the thick of it, we
mm,
know
mm.
that we don't think clearly, and we know that we can just find ourselves just sort of grinding through and surviving.
Yeah.
So
Mm,
it's about
mm,
building a community of of collective care. So that's sort of moving away
mm,
from this idea of self-care and putting the onus on
mm,
someone to look
mm,
after
mm,
themselves, but really
mm.
stepping out to bring some care and some authenticity and accountability too, because
Mm,
we know that if we are disconnected from ourselves in that exhausted place, we can either
mm,
become detached in the work
mm.
or we can become overly involved, and neither are a
Yeah.
healthy place to be operating
Mm,
from. So
mm,
um, it's about building connection and
mm.
developing skills and embedding them over time in an integrated way to
Yeah.
have a practically applied pathway really to looking
Mm,
after ourselves. And we do that through lots of different ways in terms of there's
mm,
certain modules looking at vicarious
mm,
impacts and
mm,
the neuroscience and how we might use creative arts and somatics to support
mm,
ourselves, and then looking at self-leadership and collective care,
mm,
empathy, compassion, boundaries, all
mm.
of those important things that often we know
Yeah.
about, but the practices of either haven't been fully developed specific to our needs
Mm.
or have fallen away in the face of so much overwhelm.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, so much richness there and some things I want to go back to. You mentioned creative reflection. I was wondering if you
Mm-hmm.
can pack that a little bit more for the audience.
Mm-hmm.
What that tech, well, I'm calling a technique, well, a technique or a way in which to reflect. We know
Mm-hmm.
reflection process is so important, particularly in professions, but creative reflection, what does that look
Mm-hmm.
like? Yeah, or what could that look like?
Yeah. Well, I think it's about taking something that is a challenge, say, or
Mm.
a positive. So it's really
Mhm.
important to focus on both because there's great
Yes.
things
Yeah.
in
Mhm.
this
Mhm.
work that we do as well as challenge, and often the great things can get overlooked. And but
Mm.
we know
Mhm.
also from the research that the more that we're able to shine a light on the things that are going well, however small,
Mm.
it mitigates the challenges. But
Yes.
even maybe we'll go with with a positive then. We could go through a little
Mm.
example even.
If that's
Um,
okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, go
yeah.
for it. Mm.
So if you and any of the listeners want to think about something that lights you up, something that
Mm.
has lit you up in the last few days, could be
Mm.
just a smile or um, the sunrise or
Mm.
a moment of
Mm.
connection with somebody.
Mm.
And And it's about just sort of thinking about that, taking it in, seeing how you can, what comes up for you with that. And everyone's different.
Mm.
So it might be a thought or an image or a feeling, color, a body sensation. And
Mm.
so you just sit with that for a moment, pay attention. And then
Mm.
often I'll bring a piece of music in and guide people to kind of sit and reflect with that. Or even, a lot of people, particularly when they're new to this sort of work, they sort of think, I don't know what this is all about. It's a bit strange.
Mm.
So it's
Mm.
just about, well, just let the music be with you and open yourself to the music,
Mm.
just let it guide you. And if you want to just sit and listen or just sit
Mm.
and breathe, that's okay. And then we just
Mm.
have some time and space with the music for people to be with it in whatever way helps.
Mm.
or
mm,
they would like to explore it.
mm,
And then the music ends and we come back together and people just share what they've been sitting with. And often I'll say to people, particularly if they're new, just even draw a circle and color it in, or just
mm,
make a couple of marks or let your hand move across the page with the
mm,
music.
mm.
And
Yeah.
it can be pretty profound what emerges quite
Mm,
unexpectedly.
mm,
So that's
mm.
a little snapshot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Minky, for taking us through that. I just recently purchased these goofy little, well, I call them goofy, but they're up on my computer. They're just sitting on their little ornaments of ducks, and they're in different poses. One's sort of like hugging the corner, the other one's got his head over, another one's sitting there like this. And I
Mm,
looked up at that and I went, that's, yeah, and I felt a sense of just broadening of the chest, like a lightness or a beaming. And the word goofy and fun and came up, and yeah, a smile came on my face, a little giggle. You may have heard, may not have, I might have muffled it a bit, but yeah. Um, and I love how, like, yeah, with people new to it, certainly when I came to be involved in your supervision groups, I was very new to that process. And, but the guidance of that and the freedom and the choices that, okay, well, yeah, draw a circle, color it in, like it helped you get into it. And I really felt in that process of creative reflection there, as you shared it, what you were talking about before as well, of it's about helping them become present. All of
mhm,
that feels like a channel into that what's emerging, what's here right
mhm,
now. Okay, yeah, there's a prompt, but what's
mhm.
emerging, and so really helping facilitate presence. Yeah, I really felt that, and I just wanted to reflect that as well. How
Mm.
that helps facilitate that process, even if you are a beginner and you're like, okay, draw or go with the music, because music, yeah. When you
Yeah.
stay with it can help you be present as well. So yeah, thank you.
And
That's so cool.
it's a helpful container too, because it's got a beginning and an end. So it
Yeah.
sort of offers a bit of a time capsule for you to sit within.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think for that reason also it can be a really great resource. I mean, in so
Yeah.
many different ways, but particularly as, often people say, I don't have time, I don't have time to do
Mm, they do. Yeah.
any of the above things. But it's like, well, you've got 2 minutes. And if you put on a 2 minute piece of music, you know that it's going to end at 2 minutes. And then that's that.
Yeah. That's it.
It sort of makes it easier to take that time, I think.
Yeah, I never actually thought about I've thought about that with meditations and
Mm-hmm.
there's okay, do a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a beginning and end, but yeah, music too. Because I know, or since being exposed, just the power of being present with music, in a lot of ways to yeah process or deal with yeah things. So yeah, but it's a containment in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to pause here for a moment to share something with you. If you've been listening and thinking, I wish I had a space where I could talk about this with people who truly get it, that's exactly why I created the Midlife Reclaimed community. It's a gentle, real, and supportive space for women navigating midlife. Whether you're facing chronic stress, overwhelm, burnout, or simply wanting to reconnect with yourself. We meet for live, weekly support circles, share reflective prompts, and learn together so you can feel seen, heard, and supported as you reclaim what matters most. You don't have to figure it all out alone. Visit shannonaswales.com/midlife reclaimed community to join us. Now let's get back to the episode. You also mentioned there with more of the Flourish program, which
Mm-hmm.
just sounds so vital. I really got a sense of, you mentioned there that self-care versus collective care and how as you've designed the Flourish program to really facilitate the collective care to help. I was going to use the word container, or have a container, I suppose, for the practitioners a space in which they can receive care, but not one which is, okay, you go off and fix yourself kind of thing and deal with and or independent self-care kind of thing, like on
Mm,
your own,
mm.
it's your responsibility, go ahead, versus hang on, these spaces where you're here together with other people, you've got a practitioner who's facilitating, guiding this that can create the space and guide the space from that survival to flourishment and provide the tools to do so, but through that collective care space. I just wonder if you can speak a little bit more to, what you've come to learn and know about the power of collective care
Mm.
versus the self-care out there. And because we still hear it a lot, that term. I'm trying to not use the term self-care because I don't it's not what I mean when I say it, but it does often
Yeah,
feel like, oh, well, I've got to go and look after myself. Yeah. And
yeah.
that
I
doesn't
I
always feel
think I
great.
really prefer the idea of self-leadership to self-care,
Oh, mm,
because it feels more active, I think,
mm,
and less blaming. I think that's what a lot of
mm,
uh, the the culture, I think, around self-care has shifted to feeling what can quite feel quite punitive, I think, in some
mm,
ways. Like, we've spoken about the huge systemic issues that we're seeing and the funding issues. And, you put anyone in that situation, they'd be struggling to work under
yes.
those circumstances. And to to then say, oh, it's hard. Well, how's your self-care going? It's sort of like
Mm,
the insinuation is, you know, are you looking after yourself? When actually we know the problem
yeah.
is far bigger. And not to, of course, we need to look after ourselves and take responsibility for ourselves. That's very important.
Hmm.
But
Mm,
there's also the commodification of self-care, the whole get a
mm,
massage, and which obviously
yeah.
who doesn't love a massage? But the the fact is we need to look at the wider system, and
Mm,
also that when we are doing this work, we're working with people who are suffering either physical or emotional pain, and it's relational work. So so and what we know about that is that if there is sort of injury or pain in a relationship, we know that the best way to um,
mm,
recover from that is
mm,
also in relationship, and that
mm,
connection and community are so important.
mm,
So I
mm,
think having people around us who get it, who
mm,
are going to be able to see and support us, then that's what
mm,
makes all the difference. And even just a small thing, like often an
mm.
example I give is coming out of a session and, I'm just sort of ready to do the next thing. And then I remember a team member saying to me, are you okay? And it's like,
Mm,
oh, actually, no, I'm not okay. But I was
mm,
ready just to push through. And it wasn't
mm,
a big moment. It was just actually, I'm really tense. That was a really hard session. You're right. I'm going to actually take a breath and just take,
mm,
3 minutes outside in the sun, and then I come back in and I'm fine. But if that team member hadn't said
mm,
to me, are you okay? I probably
mm,
would have just pushed on and ignored it. So it's
mm,
about having support, but it's also about accountability. And I think,
mm,
there's many different people who talk about this. Vicky Reynolds is someone who has
mm,
influenced my work quite a lot, and I know
mm,
there's many others. I'm not going to name them all here, but
mm,
and I think what Vicky talks about so well is that when you looking at where you are in terms of being detached or being overly involved with a
mm,
situation, again, sometimes we can be so far down the rabbit hole that we don't know, and if we don't have adequate
mm.
supervision or supports around us, we may not know. So that's where we
That we're
need someone to go,
there.
hey,
Are you
you need to
okay?
step back a bit,
Mm,
or what's
yeah.
going on. So that's where the accountability comes in and is actually quite
Yeah.
important, not only
Yeah.
or importantly, for the people that we're working with, because we want to be clear
Mm,
and making, you know, making important clinical decisions, but we also need to be looking
Mm,
after ourselves. So that's
yeah.
some of the ways that I
Yeah.
think about collective care.
Yeah. Well, it's really sitting with me, just dropping that the repair comes where there's relational injury, which when we think about therapists, clinicians who are the emotional, mental toll, moral distress, burnout, it's happened within the relationship between their work, their industry, or the system,
Mm.
all the above, and themselves, and that the repair happens in relationships. I was like, oh, that just put another layer for me. I just
Yeah.
went, and therefore why having, like you said, a good a good supervision, mentorship, groups, well, these spaces for clinicians to be able to come to where their care is there. So yeah, and but to repair within the relationship, because the
Mm.
others who are there or the clinician that's there for them is there for them and can help
Mm.
and or even the colleague in the hallway, like I think about back in the group practices
Yeah.
that so if they, and I know they would have, and I'm sure they did over times, and I did too, but it was just so infrequent because we were behind
Mm.
closed doors most of the time. We would step in and say, "How are you?" But like,
Mm.
or how are you going, or pick up on something. But the reality is, we were just so probably all burnt out, really, all distressed and in our own ways with work and life and stuff. Like it was really hard, but
Mm.
places like Flourish and your clinical supervision or even the one-on-one work, is where that relationship repair can happen. That's just
Mm.
really sitting with me. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And the self-leadership. I like that. I've heard it before, but I haven't really sat with it. Because like you said, we're still, even the repair happens in relationship, but it's that showing up, like,
Mm.
so that self-leadership to go, okay, I need to step into that therapy or step into that supervision or step into this program, step in to get the help that I need. And then also in those programs, in those situations, stepping into the work as well. Like, because it's not,
Yeah.
I only can speak from my experience, but also vicariously from the clients I work with. It's not easy, but
No.
it's certainly, in terms of that self-leadership and in terms of what you get out of it, so good. Like
Mm.
to be able
Mm.
to, I'm doing this because it feels like it almost holds me in some way in how I work now. I mean, I've changed how I work as well. I don't, yeah, but I still work in the systems that are under-resourced and the
Yeah.
community. But yeah, it can help, well, hopefully allow us to be a bit more buoyant and yeah, not down in those depths of despair, yeah, or distress.
I think it helps to take us out of a place of helplessness or collapse because it's
Mm,
easy to go to that place when you do look at the wider systems and particularly those big organizations that, are just sort of like such slow moving beasts with so much bureaucracy.
mm,
But if you can come from a place of, well, what kind of leader do I want to be? What kind of
mm,
people have influenced me or who have been the good leaders that I want to aspire
mm,
to be? And it's almost like
mm.
that cliche of, be the change, which
Yeah, I
I'm
hear
not
you.
saying it's easy because it's not, particularly when you're in those systems
Mm,
as we all are. But there's more and more people changing the way that they're working. I mean, look, we're here
yeah,
talking
I
today.
know how we
There's
work. Yeah,
many
yeah,
leaders around the
yeah.
world and the country who are shifting things.
Mm.
Um, and even in July this year, there's the Heart of Medicine conference, which
Ah,
is I'm on the faculty for that as well, and that's
congratulations.
that's a international conference that's really bringing people who are leaders in compassionate care and leadership in these ways from
Mm,
around the world to explore and deepen into how we
mm.
can, make these changes together. So
Yeah,
there are
bringing
lots of
community.
changes being made. Moral distress is commonly talked about these days. It wasn't a few years
Mm,
ago. I
mm,
think there's a lot of positive shifts happening. Uh, And also it's very
Mm.
challenging.
Mm. But
Yeah.
like having that, I hear what, yeah, that cliche, but an important one here that it's like I always have the lyrics from an Michael Jackson song "Man in the Mirror." The person in the
Hmm.
mirror it starts, and I just hold on to that. And whilst that's yeah hard and difficult, but like we can shift culture by being that leader that we want to be, and who is
Mm.
that? What does that look like? And it also gives us hope. I think like, you know,
Hmm.
all moves us away from that collapse and hopelessness and finding community of like and as you've found that, you've seen that, you're
Mm.
part of that. There's
Hmm.
you'll find that those people and that will yeah help like I think yeah bring that lightness, that hope, that forward momentum for yourself, but then yeah for the
Mm.
world hopefully too. Yeah.
And I think when you can do it in that place, from a place of collective care, when you do find
Yeah.
communities like that, it means
Mm,
you can be leading from that place sometimes, but we can't do that
mm,
all the time. Sometimes
mm.
well, it's exhausting to do it a lot. So it's
Yeah.
that where you can have that buffer where it can be shared around or, held and, that it
Yeah.
can be, it's that, what do they have? I know I've heard some teams talk about it in terms of the geese, the flying geese analogy, is that the
Oh,
geese fly in that
oh,
sort of shape and there's one in the front and they take turns
mm. Oh,
to
do
go in
they?
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they take turns to go. I hope I'm getting that right.
Beautiful.
That they
Oh,
take turns to
huh.
be at the front to do that really the most exhausting
Yeah.
part of the work.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that's yeah.
yeah. That makes me actually think about road cyclists as well. They
Oh
my sister used to be
yes.
a triathlete and she like the bike, she was like, yeah, you ride someone, but they had rules around that too. So you had to share there was something about sharing it, just in
Yes.
terms of advantage. But like, well, you can yeah, rest a bit. Yeah, like not
Mm-hmm.
have as much effort. It really brings the humanness because if we're always leading, if we're
Yes.
always and maybe overextending, you know, like I think you're mentioning earlier that yeah, that's not we're human. We've got a human
Mm-hmm.
body. We can't operate in that sustained level without it impacting
Mm-hmm.
significantly on us, and especially in systems where we're under resourced and that and that impacting that sense of yeah you know that value mismatch and the moral distress that comes with it. And yeah, I just like that's so cool, and it made me think about what you've said a couple of times now too, that with your work, it is always, it's not what I grew up thinking you had to separate your professional from your personal. You know, it was like you switched off when you came home. And um, I was just thinking now, I watched my father, he never switched off when he came home. And my mum, you know, 24/7 mother, like she never switched off. Um, yeah, but like there was that mentality. But as you said,
Mm-hmm.
in this work, particularly with the workers that you're exposed to, but I think it relates so much to everything. It's
Mm-hmm.
no, it's not about separating, but more about how do we continue to look after the personal, the human, you know,
Mm-hmm.
wherever she is at or they are at, you know, like home, work,
Mm-hmm.
driving the kids to school, like sitting down at a cafe with girlfriends, whatever, like going off to the movies. How do we the human is there, you know, the personal
Yeah.
is there and to always or do our best to have her in mind. And
Mm.
does she need to step back for a bit? Does she need to be up there? Like where or what does she need? Yeah, in her work.
Yeah. And I
Mm.
think I mean, obviously we want to have our professional selves forward and we're not going to be, we keep it in check somewhat, but it's about having the awareness so that we can notice, what I like using this idea of the before, during, and after, so it's like
Mm.
how am I traveling? If we don't always need to do this, but if we're having a bit
Mm.
of a tricky time, or it's a situation that we know we might find challenging, a meeting or an appointment or a particular day at work, what
Mm.
might I need to support myself before? What might I need during and afterwards? Something
Mm.
may have popped up that we weren't expecting that has impacted us. And then it's about looking back and going, okay, that did happen. So now what can I do to take care of
Mm.
that? Because we know that if we don't tend to those impacts,
Mm.
that's
Mm.
where we do have that cumulative toll. So it's
Yeah.
about,
Mm.
it's not so much about, bringing I mean, obviously we want to be ourselves, but it's not about sort of letting our
No,
personal experience kind of bleed
got you.
into everything. It's about having an awareness so
Mm.
that we can then know how to support and tend to ourselves.
Yeah, it's almost like a quiet, well, quiet. It's not a process you would see someone doing, but it's a
No.
process that's happening inside. So if you're, like with my work, sitting in front of a client, yeah, I'm not bringing myself and going, oh, I've had a bad day today and
Yeah, yeah,
just really need to chat to you about that.
yeah.
It it would be like that, yeah, either before the session, after the session, or just, even the start of my day eating breakfast. How are we feeling? What's going on? What might I need today to take me through?
Mm,
And a check-in, yeah, throughout the day or at some point, how am I going? What do I need? It's yeah, and even sometimes I've found because I do this practice, equanimity practice from Mindful Self-Compassion, Krista Neff and Christopher Germer, only came to it in the last year. Um, but they do this breath exercise where you that you could do whilst you're in front of a client. A
mm,
breath in for me, a breath out for them, and you can
mm.
change it to be more. But it's just that awareness I'm here, and the
Yes.
breath is for me. But
Hmm.
yeah, an equanimity can look like lots of different things. It could be words that you say to yourself. It can be actions, whatever.
Mm,
But I love the breath one because it's like, well, breath's always there. And I can do that with awareness that, yeah, I'm here and I need some nourishing. And yes, they are here and they
hmm.
need nourishing as well. And I'm doing the work. And yeah, but
Hmm.
yeah, we're both, yeah, but in a way that obviously doesn't take over and helps
No.
you to be present.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. I
I
think,
don't know.
and there's probably all of us have ways that we're doing that anyway, no doubt.
Mm,
It's more about bringing um, an awareness and intentionality to it so that
mm, mm,
you're very clear that's what you're doing.
mm,
And there's lots of different ways that we can do that. And there's many new ways that we could explore doing it.
mm.
It's all kind of somatic ways that we can do that in terms
Yeah.
of resourcing. There's all kinds of, um, in the moment ways that we can do that with the people that we're
Mm,
supporting. So there's lots of different ways that we can do it
mm,
and
mm,
likely
mm.
already do.
Yeah, well, that's it too. As we start bringing language or talking about these topics, I'm sure the listeners might be, it's like, oh, I do that thing. And I haven't actually
Mm.
thought about that would be.
Hmm.
And then like I had this situation the other day where that came up. It's like, oh, I sway. Well, this person was like, I
Hmm.
sway, and because we're doing some self-compassion work, and it's like, and that's really nourishing and caregiving for them, but they're not doing it with that intent, but
No.
bringing that in, but they're doing it intuitively, and it
Mm.
does support them. But now bringing
Mm.
that intention and connection there to that
Mm.
process, like we're often doing a lot of these things
Yeah.
already just bringing language, connection, intention, which makes it even more powerful
Hmm.
to yeah support the human yeah in
Yeah, that's right.
this system, life
Mm.
and stuff. Yeah, and I know I'm just going to pause here for a moment to share something with you. If you'd like to keep up to date with what I'm working on in the world of midlife and burnout, I invite you to join my mailing list. It's where I share updates on the resources, events, and services I offer to help you navigate midlife stress, overwhelm, and burnout with more ease and clarity. As a thank you, you'll receive my free guided journal, Journaling as a Way Back to Yourself, a gentle, at your own pace, reflective practice to slow down, listen inward, and reconnect with what matters most. You'll also get a couple of extra resources to support you in your inbox after your journal arrives. You can sign up via the link in the show notes or at shannonaswales.com/subscribe. So now back to the episode. But Minky, there's so much, and I feel like there was one other thing that I wanted to come back to, but I think I wrote no, oh, somatics. I just
Oh,
wondered
yeah.
if you could because I know it's something we're hearing more and understanding more about mainstream these days, but just for the audience, if you could just bring that to life a little bit, because it was something in the work and exposure to what you do that I wasn't, prior to burning out and then on my recovery and exposure to so many other clinicians and ways of being and doing and healing and growing. Somatics was one of them that I
Mm.
hadn't really, or just wasn't that language, but hadn't really used and understood. Can you speak to that a little bit or
Yeah.
share? Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. I mean, somatics is really talking about working with the body
Mm.
and noticing what's coming up in the body. So, there's so much language around
Mm.
nervous system states, etc. these days. So it's really about bringing the practical applications really of that to
Mm.
the work in some ways. So
Mm.
it can look like, um, I mean, we could sort of do a whole overview of what embodiment is
Yeah.
really in terms of we've got our five senses, which I think everyone knows about, but we also have, interoception, which is having that internal sense of what's happening in our body. Think about
Mm.
butterflies in your stomach or feeling,
Mm.
warm tea going into your stomach. That's that
Mm.
internal awareness. Then we
Mm.
have what's happening, that feeling of
Above the
touch on the
skin.
outside. We have the vestibular system, which is our sense of balance in
Mm.
space, and proprioception, which is how
Okay,
we
so.
can sort of know where the edges of our body are. There's
Mm.
um, kinesthetics in terms of kinesthetic movement, our body moving through space.
Mm.
And these are all just different ways that we can connect with our experience and um,
Mm.
help to make sense of things again once we bring that
Mm.
awareness, or help to release things. I mean, I think it's something that a lot of your listeners would relate to is, having tight shoulders. So often we
Mm.
have tight shoulders and it just becomes habitual. We don't really notice. And then, but if we pay attention to it, we can do something
Mm.
with it and to help
Mm.
relax ourselves.
Mm.
It's also thinking about body postures. And,
Mm.
if you think about if you sort of sit with a slump,
Mm. Mm.
and try that for a moment. I know that I automatically feel not very excited and a bit flat
Mm. Mhm.
versus sitting upright,
Mm.
and sort of lengthening my
Mm.
neck, and I feel more engaged and alive. So
Mm.
it's bringing awareness to what's happening in our bodies and then finding different ways to work with it
Mm.
to support our needs or to, gather information. Our body
Mm.
and our
Mm.
system has so much data for us to work with, that
Mm.
we all have
Yeah.
different ways that we already do that. But again, it's bringing that in. And then once we have that familiarity, there's ways that we can, again, bring that support to ourselves in session
Mm.
through postures, through different types of
Mm.
somatic resourcing. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, there's a really beautiful one. Well, it's just one in self-compassion that, well, I think it might be, anyway, one of the compassion focus, but, oh no, it's self-compassion. Kristen Neff sort of with the fierce, like, when connecting with fierce compassion, so being able to set a boundary or something that we find a little bit difficult, challenge to do, which a lot of us out there, boundaries, certain boundary setting. It's one of them. I'll put my hand up with that. But like, yeah, using the body, like, okay, if we're going to engage more of our fierce compassion to move us forward in that direction, okay, yeah, chest sliding open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the neck straight up, or neck straight looking forward. And it makes a difference to, yeah, if you're usually when we're, like fear, anxiety, stressed about doing that
Mm-hmm.
action, we're hunched over, and just how changing the body posture can
Mm-hmm.
bring about a different energy to move forward in that valued direction, important direction, but not easy. And the
Yeah.
same for, I think, in CFT, compassion focused therapy. And I remember feeling really weird trying this out because it was new, like anything new, it does feel a little bit unusual. But in order to engage our compassionate selves, whether to flow outwards or inwards, whatever way, like putting a friendly smile across your face
Yeah.
and your posture. And while that, yeah, did feel awkward, but now it actually really helps me engage my compassionate self.
Mm.
Again, just bringing my personal experiences to what you're sharing to the audience about
Mm.
somatic and how that can, somatic practices can really help us in engaging in
Yeah.
action that can support our lives and our worlds. Yeah, it's
Mm.
and just our emotional being as well, right? Um,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
And I think
Mm.
so many, we're all aware of the need for regulation these days, but it's,
Yeah.
there's lots of different types of regulation. So there's
Mm.
emotional regulation, but sort of underneath that is sensory motor regulation. And
Mm.
that's also where,
Mm.
as a registered music therapist, I mean,
Hmm.
sensory
That's
motor and emotional regulation is a music therapist's bread and butter. That's what we do all the
yeah,
time. That's what
yeah.
we're really highly skilled and trained in is to
Mm,
attend to and work with sensory motor and emotional regulation
mm,
through the arts and music. And we know that
mm,
uh, it is in these embodied ways through
mm,
music that can connect with and attune to our heartbeat, our
mm,
breath, the way that we move, and really have quite a strong
mm,
influence on those um,
mm,
physiological states that we
mm,
can find ways to bring ourselves either out of a state of really
mm,
hyper arousal,
mm,
or kind
mm.
of
Oh,
help
the
to bring us
hyper.
into a state of engagement when we're feeling
Yeah.
pretty flat.
But
So
yeah.
yeah, I guess that was just a little bit of an
No,
explainer and plug for the creative arts
music.
therapies
How
as
did,
really valuable ways of being able to interact with
yeah.
and engage and attend to those needs for ourselves and for
Yeah.
each other, because a lot of that is also
Mm,
regulating when we're in spaces together, whether it's virtual
yeah.
or in person.
Because that's the thing too, like we do feel and respond to other people's systems as well. So if we're
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're able to engage in
Mm.
things that help our sensory motor and emotional regulation, yeah, it does benefit or support others as well. Especially if, working as a therapist and a clinician
Yeah.
and vulnerable others, like if we're, yeah. Can you, I just feel, just in case there's someone out there, including myself, so I just want to make sure I have this right. Oh, it's emotional sensory motor regulation. So the sensory motor regulation is that like, yeah, the heart, like being out if you had a racing heart because you're hyper, you know, the music or art in regulating that, like targeting that, or yeah, I'm just like, I'm a little confused. I wanted to check in in
Yeah. I mean,
case
I
anyone
think
else
it's
is.
just, well, sensory motor is really looking at the way that we move and
Yeah.
those, yeah, different nervous system states. So,
Mm,
particularly, I'll talk to music because that's what
mm.
I know best.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
there's so much research showing how music can impact our breathing,
Hmm.
our heart rate, um, our neurochemistry, so
Yes.
that so we can, if you think about, maybe an easy analogy is to think about it in terms of working with children, which I've done a lot of. If a
Mm,
child comes into the room and they're highly, they're just on the move and they're
mm,
just jumping, and you're trying to talk to them about something, and they're not going to sit down and talk
mm,
because they're just coming in a
mm,
really heightened state. So then, jumping on the spot 10 times to match where they're at. And
mm,
then going, okay, now let's do, 10. So 10 fast jumps, 10 medium jumps, 10 slow elephant
mm.
jumps. And now they're ready to probably
Mm.
not sit down and talk because that's not what kids do, but engage in something that's got a little bit of
Yes.
focus. And so we can
Okay.
also, that's a jumping example, but often we do that with music as well. If you think about if you're going to go for a
Mm.
run, you'd put on a certain type of
Mhm.
music versus wanting to wind down to go to bed.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and
Mm.
that is a very well documented
Yeah.
um, process that we can help ourselves sort of tune our physiology down with music.
Yeah. Oh no, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for, yeah, just bringing that to life a little bit more for
Hmm.
me and the audience.
Yeah.
It makes me think of some of the guided, like when you used music in the supervision sessions that I attended, and the pieces that, yeah, and yeah, just where that took you to. I was like connecting
Hmm.
back the sensory motor changes and yeah. And when I
Mm.
used to run, I would pick, yeah, I would pick pretty upbeat things to get
Yeah,
me going. And
exactly.
and when I'm just wanting to chill, usually it's silence for me, but it
Mm.
would be more like acoustic guitar or um just yeah, or like
Something
a
slower, probably.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely slower paces.
yeah.
But that, oh, music. But
Hmm.
the expertise of a trained music therapist to really
Mm.
help you in that and just that
Mm.
benefit. And oh, that jumping thing, oh, that illustration of how you worked with a kid there, that was really cool
Mm.
too. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, Minky, I feel there's so much, richness and like that. We started off, the multi-layer, and that certainly came back in, where we're all living in systems that, whether industry, workplace, team, family, culture, that want for a better word, broken, or there's things in it that are creating distress or stress or whatever that might be, and ways in which but like and the approaches and ways in which you go about it. And there's just so many good nuggets across this chat, and
Hmm.
giving people food for thought, around collective care, self-leadership, self-care, the being present and creative reflection, the power of music,
Mm.
somatic. There's just community as well. I think that's a
Mm.
that's such a powerful message and importance, and something I'm really holding and trying to create in the spaces for me personally, but professionally. Community, yeah, is key. And so, thank you for sharing all that wisdom, knowledge, and experience with us. To
Mm.
to help us all out there in dealing with life.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great conversation. I feel like we could probably talk all day if we
We
if we
can.
wanted to, but
We could.
not so
Can have you
sure all the
back.
listeners would be keen on that.
Can have you back. There. But one of the things I know you've mentioned your programs, but I just want the opportunity for people out there that like, oh God, yeah, the music, the somatic, or supervision and the flourish. How's it best to connect with you? And I will leave these details, of course, in the show notes as well. But what's the best way
Mm.
to get in touch with you, the work that you do?
Yeah, well, I mean, my website is there. So that's
Mhm.
just tempotherapy.com.au.
Mhm.
And then I'm on LinkedIn as my name, and
Okay.
Instagram. I think it's
Yeah.
tempo.therapy.supervision. I think that's what
I'll
it
make sure
is.
it's in there
I
for
should
yeah.
know, shouldn't
And
I?
that's oh no, I'm like actually I actually realized the other day I put my Instagram wrong. I thought it's too many things to remember. You've got enough.
Yes, that's right.
But we'll get them right in the description though. But I mean that's how I can found you first anyway. But your
Hmm.
website's a great way to connect with your work as well.
Mm.
And LinkedIn, if they're on there as well, can start to get a
Yeah.
sense of more of what you do and how to connect with your work if they want to. But I really, yeah, again, appreciate you coming on here and yeah, and sharing what you have today. Thanks, Minky.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you for the work that
Yeah.
you do as well.
Oh, thank you. And one day I'll get
Hmm.
down there in Tasmania sometime to meet you in person.
That'd be
One day.
great.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Minky.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Midlife Reclaimed. I hope today's conversation has reminded you that you are not alone and that change is possible even in the busiest seasons of life. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, rate, or review the podcast and share it with another midlife woman who might need it. For more resources on navigating midlife stress, overwhelm, and burnout, along with reflective writing prompts and community connection, visit shannonaswales.com. You can also watch full episodes on YouTube at Midlife Reclaimed. Remember, you have permission to slow down, to rest, and to reclaim what matters most. See you again soon.